Alright, so there are a couple of things I want to look at. Unfortunately, the video we did on the topic, understanding the topic, that's dead, that's gone. So a quick reference to that, hopefully a reminder. I'll try to be quick on that. So the first thing we talked about when it comes to IELTS Task 2, whether academic or general, is understanding the question topic. Now the question topics in IELTS are usually not easy to understand on the first take, right? And that is the problem. And we talked about it, that most of the students, the problem with most of the students is 85–90% of the students or the candidates taking IELTS do not get it right. Why? Because the questions are difficult to understand. They need some, what is the keyword is critical thinking. They take some critical thinking. But most of the students who come to task 2, they have already spent too much time on task 1. And when they get to task 2, they find out that they have 25 minutes, 30 minutes to do the essay. So they rush through the, say, topic sentence, and they don't get it. They just start writing, scribbling down 250 words. That's what happens. And a lot of things get lost. And we did some review in this class, and we figured how tough a job it is trying to figure out what the topic sentence actually says in the first place. So the topic sentences in IELTS, they are analytical, tough to understand. We need to spend time. We need to try to understand what the topic says in the first place. And then we underline the words, right? Underlining keywords, such as, well, this is one good example of a topic sentence and how tough it is. We worked on it. Almost everybody got it wrong in the class. And those who did get it right, their responses were half right. The reason being that the topic here is not easy. Now, let's read it. These days, everyone seems to have more and more possessions. These days, everyone seems to have more and more possessions. Example, cars, for example, cars, computers, mobile phones, etc. It goes on. Our desire to own these things is making us less aware of important personal qualities. Our desire to own these things, our desire to own these things is making us less aware of important personal qualities, such as kindness and concern for others. Do you agree or disagree? Then give reasons, include relevant examples from your own knowledge. This was the topic. Now, most of you guys just looked at it and you were supposed to analyze it. It wasn't the IELTS day, really under time pressure, and wow, how should I do? I should write really quickly, some 25, whatever, 30 lines at least. It wasn't like that, right? It was actually a teacher asking you to really sit down and try to understand, and the teacher telling you that it's extremely difficult. Please try to understand it. And you tried your best, and the result was, as we know, we know what the result was like. So this only tells us how tough it is, the topics are. They're not an easy read. Now, one more thing. How many statements do we see here? How many statements are there? These days, everyone seems to have more and more possessions. One statement. Yes?
Yes.
Next one. Our strong desire to own these things is making us less aware of important personal qualities, such as kindness and concern for others. Two statements. So when I say, do you agree or disagree? Actually, your agreement or disagreement is with two things, not just one. There are two statements. You may disagree from the first one, from the beginning, from the first premise. The first, premise, which is a premise. Premise. When we have premises, Now, premise is a good word. When you have an argument, you would say that boys are like this, so therefore So that's your my basic premise is the first one. Then I'm building on this premise, right? So in logic, when we speak, we have different premises. So one statement with a logical point in it, that's one premise. Now, if you go somewhere like to a library, you're not allowed to eat on the premises. That's a different thing. On the premises. On the premises, which means you cannot eat inside the library. It means you cannot eat on site, on the site of the library. Okay? You're not allowed to eat on the premises. That's the different thing. The premises of a hotel, the premises of a library, the premises of a restaurant. Wi-Fi is available on the premises. Means inside or so. That's different. But when it comes to the premise of an argument, so this is the premise. You may agree or disagree with the premise. But you should first get it right. When you read, you should sometimes look at the certain words we have here, like seems. When we write ourselves to, there's something called concession. And I think concession is big, not just in IELTS. And you know the verb is to concede. Concession. What is concession? Concession has different meanings. In politics, one country gives concessions to another country. Maybe because that country is in a weaker position. When there was an agreement between the Allies and the alliance of the Axis powers of Germany and its own allies during World War I and World War II, Germany had to give a lot of concessions to the other countries. Why? Because they were the victors. So that's a concession. Sometimes you concede, you give somebody a concession, and then you say, well, I'm giving you this concession. And you concede. But in IELTS and in argumentation, concession means that, okay, if I say, I believe that this is true, I should concede. I should accept the fact that not everyone thinks like this. And this is, by the way, a good structure. Not everyone thinks like this. Not everyone goes, not everyone thinks like this. Does it mean nobody thinks like this? It means not everybody. You may think so, but that doesn't mean everyone thinks like that. So not everyone. So not everyone thinks like this. So it's good to admit when we are, it's more academic to admit that some people may disagree, but I believe. So when you say some people may disagree, but I believe, this is called concession. You're conceding that not everyone agrees with you. That what you're saying is not absolutely right or absolutely accepted by everyone. This is called concession. Not everyone agrees with this, but some people say this, but I say that. So when I say some people, that's a concession. That's number one. Second, if you want to make your statements more acceptable when you speak to others, whenever you're absolute, like black or white, right or wrong, yes or no, chances are many people will not agree with you. But to make your statements more acceptable, or maybe more academically acceptable, you need phrases such as seems to, appears to. Because when you say seems to, that person is guarding himself or herself against some very quick refutation that is saying rejection, that is no, that's not right. He says, look, I said seem to. I didn't say they are. So this is a good way of shielding yourself against criticism when you want to make some statement. When you want to make statements, it's not really good to make them very unless there is a good case for it, there's a good cause for it. Well, there are times that you can say, I strongly disagree with this statement. That's completely black and white. There are times you say, I partially agree or disagree. You know partially? So instead of going strongly, you can partially agree or disagree. Means in part. If you partially agree with something, what does that mean? It means you're not completely against it or for it. There are parts of it you agree with, there are parts of it you disagree with. Now, the next thing that comes to mind is the question of which is the politically correct way of dealing with an exam like IELTS or say CAE. Is this the better path to partially agree or disagree? If you're really good at argumentation, if you're really good at supporting what you want to say, and if you find it really easy to do it, go ahead. But if not, and if you think it's easier to take one position, yes or no, black or white, go for that. It's usually easier to defend black or white. Because as soon as you say, I partially agree or disagree, you're making the case for a more what discussion? Give me a word here. Yes or no is easy. Yes, no. I strongly agree, I strongly disagree. And the reason why I strongly agree is like, well, I have 3 reasons. These are my reasons, so I have 3 paragraphs for body. I strongly disagree. So when I say I partially agree or disagree, or I partly agree or partially agree with partially, partly, in part, you're making it a lot more complicated and analytical. It's more analytical. Now, in IELTS, do you get a good score for your beliefs? Is there a score for that? What you think? If I agree or disagree, do I get a score for that? Unless the examiner is a very biased and unprofessional person who sits there and scores your opinions, you're not supposed to get or lose a point for what you believe in, correct? So basically the point should go to your English and how well you put your sentences together. That's why one trick for a test like IELTS is to go for the easier rather than what you think is true. Go for the easier option, something that's more defensible, that's easy to defend for you, and somehow with your command of language is supportable and defensible. That's my suggestion to you. So if you think these days everyone seems to have more and more possessions, so on and so forth, I strongly disagree, I partly agree or disagree. If you think it's harder for you to go in there and analyzing your complicated state of mind, and then you have to sit there and really think for minutes and hours, forget it. I have told you, sometimes you have topics like, is it good to go to work for personal reasons and making money, or working to serve the society? You may think, oh my God, I want to get a job because I really want to make money. But it's not going to be easy for me to have 3 reasons for it and defend it in 3 paragraphs. Maybe it's easier for me to defend the other one, serving the society, and look good on my test paper. It's a person who cares about the society. And what happens is, because all the time we hear all these reasons from TV, from media, from different people, from the older people, oh, you have to be good, you have to serve the society, you have to give back to the community, and all that. So it's very easy for me to write 3 reasons like off the cuff of my head and go on. So for IELTS, for CAE, for any test, my suggestion is do this. Unless you want to go the other way. Fine. Now, back to this topic, which was kind of in depth, and everyone who read it thought that, okay, this basically means everyone seems to have more and more possessions, mobiles, computers, and all that, and basically that's kind of stops our humanity, that's against our humanity. So everyone here in this class thought, oh, so technology is against, not everyone actually, I would say, see, when I say everyone, that's easily criticized. I would say almost everyone. When you add one almost to everyone, it's like very defensible. Because everybody says, not me. She says, no, so he doesn't mean me. He doesn't mean me. He doesn't mean me. Almost everyone. It's 99% not me. That's good. In logic and in argumentation, it's good to use these words. They cushion the blow of the argument and make your statements more acceptable. So almost everyone thought it's about technology. Oh, technology is making people more distant from each other. Is that correct? That's what you guys got, almost. Almost. Well, not you, not you, not you. Almost everyone. So, technology, that wasn't our topic, right? That was not the topic. The topic was, these days everyone seems to. It makes it easier to agree with. Seems to have more and more possessions. Now, the actual keyword here was, what was the keyword here? Our desire, strong desire. It wasn't having a cell phone makes me less kind. It wasn't like that. So the strong desire to have more and more, own these things, is making us, again, one of those words that I told you, like almost, is less. Which makes the statement harder to disagree with. It makes it more difficult to disagree with. Somebody who's saying, look, it makes it less. How often does this happen? You have a conversation with your friend, you say, no, no. And your friend says, look, I said less so. I didn't say no. I didn't say absolutely not. I said less so. I said, no, no. Because pretty much like IELTS, usually in the everyday conversations and situations, we tend to have easy conversations, right? Like I'm hungry, oh I'm dying, oh I hate him, or I love him, or I like him. These are easier. Now as soon as a sentence, someone says something that's a little tricky, like says, I'm not that hungry. You're not? I said, I'm not that hungry, for God's sake. Then things become a little trickier to understand because we usually don't tend to do critical thinking, even in our daily lives and simply daily occasions, in everyday conversations. Even in everyday conversations, we tend not to really listen carefully. So, here's less aware of important personal qualities, such as kindness and concern for others. Now, many people in this very class disagreed with this statement. And the reason was, technology doesn't necessarily make people less kind. I can have my phone but still be nice. Or those of you who said, I agree with this sentence, misunderstood the sentence. It was like, oh, I agree with the statement because when we go out, people sit there and work with their mobiles and cell phones. Now remember, that's a completely, wait, I'll say it again, that's a completely different topic. Let's move on. That was about technology, this is it. So, when we have an IELTS topic, the first thing is understand it. Understand it. How much time do you think we should spend on a topic like this to understand it? How much time do you need? Kenta, how much time do you need to understand a topic like this? And remember, you have 40 minutes to write an essay, right? 250 words. How much time do you need?
Less than 4 minutes.
For understanding it, you don't have more than 2 minutes.
No.
Just understanding it. You don't have more than a couple of minutes. Because in IELTS, it's all about concentration. But that's why you have to practice doing the test. That's why you have to, from now on, like if somebody wants to take the test, they should sit down and read as many IELTS topics as possible and do a lot of underlining. And you should time yourself. In less than 2 minutes, you must understand completely the topic and you must know how many tasks you have. Do you agree or disagree? Task 1, give reasons. Task 2, and include the relevant examples. Personal knowledge. That was personal knowledge here, and I didn't put it. Personal knowledge, another task. Right? So that's it. So you should spend in IELTS some time. That's why I say task 2, do it first. Task 1, do it second. Because task 1 usually distracts you. But task 2 has double the score. You do it first, you're okay with that, then you go with 20 minutes to task 1. Now, I underlined the words. I got a clear idea what it means. Now I should write. Okay? I underline my words. I know that this is about, okay, so let me see. This is the picture I got. I made things easy for myself in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes. I got it. So people seem to have more and more. Because they want to have more things, because they keep wanting to want more things, they will keep wanting to have more things, to possess more things. What happens? Because of that want, because of that desire, they will be less aware of things such as kindness and concern for others. Less aware of. Now, if I want to agree or disagree with this, if I want to say disagree, how could I disagree? I should say, these days, everyone seems to have more and more possessions. I would say I totally disagree. Why? Because I totally disagree with the first premise that people these days seem to have more and more. Or I would say, even if people seem to have more and more, the fact is, more and more people have less and less these days. I would say that. Because there are a lot more poor people. And I would give some statistics and all that. That's how I can disagree with the statements. Or, the second statement and the second premise of the question is, the topic is, our strong desire to own these things is making us less aware. I should say, it doesn't necessarily make us less aware of. It doesn't make me less aware of. I still know, I'm still aware of kindness and all that. I just try, well, I just don't pay a lot of attention to it. I'm aware of it. Because being aware of something is one thing, and practicing it is another thing. Because the question is not telling me, so, but you see, it's a little hard, isn't it? Even for me, this would be hard to defend. I have 40 minutes, I want to sit down and write something. This would be hard for me to defend. So, it's easier for me to say, oh yeah, look, humanity is gone, it's over because people are they want to buy more and more things because of that. So, first of all, I should find out which position is easier to defend for me. Because in IELTS, or any other exam, or any other speaking occasion, it's important for you to clarify your position. True?